everyone. Hi. How's everyone doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Clearly, I am jamming. Here we go. Yes, welcome everyone. I'll let everyone file in. Hi. What's up, y'all? Happy Monday. Happy Monday. There we go. Ow, look at me. Y'all, I am an expert with pinning these comments now. I'm just saying. Happy Monday, y'all. Yes, happy Monday. Hi, Raven. Hello, Sam. Hi, Sam. If you guys don't know my Rose Floors, please follow them. Their bouquets are the best and they're Black owned. So do what has to be done, y'all. Yes. So it is another day. We are ready for Master Manifestors. We are waiting for, oh, here she is. Yes, let's get into it, y'all. Yes. Give her a second to join.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. Yes.
So
Oh my God. I know. I'm so excited to see you and to get into it. I've been telling everyone this week, I'm like, okay, so like every week we talk to someone great and I'm excited about it all the time. But I'm so excited to be talking to another woman who is in the mindset coach space, and you're about to give us all the tea. So I hope y'all are ready. This is the lovely Zainab. It is so good to see you, girl, to see your face. And you're calling in from Toronto. What's Toronto's nickname?
Sorry.
It's the six, right? That's
Yeah,
Toronto's nickname. Okay, I'm like,
yeah.
I know Drake well enough to, I should know that answer all automatically, but it's fine. It's fine. So as we're letting everyone get in and, get comfortable, as I tell you guys always, grab something to drink, get your notebook, take your notes. Yes, we're ready. Honey, I'm ready to take these notes. I came prepared. I'm here to get all the tea. So for anybody who has not joined us before, welcome. This is Master Manifestors with Soul Sister Network. My name is Kanique Swinson, and I am the founder of Soul Sister Network. And I am joined by the lovely Zainab Benson. And I will let you do your own intro, but I just want to tell everyone first, I normally go into like how I meet the people that I interview. I don't know how me and Zainab found each other. It was honestly just like God and the universe, and the universe like doing its thing. And we followed each other on Instagram, and I immediately loved her vibe. I love the content that she puts out. And I was like, okay, I have to have her on the show. So this has actually been like a long time coming. You guys don't know all like the background, but I've wanted her to be on the show now for like a month. And the universe finally aligned and was like, okay, boo, we're ready. Everyone's ready for this tea. So here we are. So let's get into it. Give us your intro, babe. Tell us all about you. What should we know? What are, like, who are you? What do you do? And like, what are your passions?
Awesome. Beautiful. So hi, everyone. Hi, Alana. I am Zainab Benson. So I am an intuitive mindset coach. And I work with female coaches, female business owners, and female creatives and visionaries. I like to say light workers as well, who are just looking to get really intuitive and connected to their business while using their intuition and working through their own mindset blocks. And that could look like self-doubt, perfectionism. One of the common things that I see is, these business owners and coaches, they love what they do, but they constantly feel as though they're not rooted in who they are. So they struggle a lot with that. With both of us being in the online space, it's really difficult.
Exactly. And what I love about your focus being that it's specifically about like intuition and like doubt and like imposter syndrome, I feel like no matter what industry people are in, they can definitely relate to that. Like even before I became a coach, like when I had like my like office job, I struggled with doubt and problems with intuition and me not knowing where to go and what to do. So that's why I love that your focus is about intuitive mindset coaching and just looking at life through the lens of intuition, and we'll get more into that because that can hit on so many different things, no matter what industry you're in, no matter like what race you are. But I definitely feel like it's something that women of color, particularly Black women, can struggle with too, just having that as like an extra thing that builds on. But thank you for that intro. Let's get into it. So the first question I always ask everyone is like, when did you get into manifestation, and what was like the first thing that got you there? Was it a book? Were you manifesting before you knew the name of it? Like, what did that trail look like for you?
That is a great question. Okay, so I don't remember when I got into manifesting, but
I can relate.
I feel as though it was like, I want to say around like maybe high school, college, like when I was around like 18, 19.
Yep.
But it just never clicked. There wasn't like, right now I'm focusing on manifesting this and that. I can tell you when I was focusing on, I didn't really call it manifesting back then. I was just like, let me hit my goal, right? And when I look back at it, that was me full on flesh on like manifesting.
Exactly.
And that was when I wanted to go to London, England. And guys, I had like a supervision board. And it's funny because I created a vision board before the one that actually worked. And it was just like too many things on it. And it didn't really give me that focus.
Yep.
And the second one that I created was just, I literally put a picture of London and I was like, I'm going there. Like, I was just like, London, and this is how much I'm going to save.
Yes.
And it's amazing. It's truly fascinating what your brain can do, and if you are aligned with your subconscious mind, it will go to work. You don't even have to focus on how. Just like,
that's the tea, y'all. For anybody who's new to manifesting, like similarly like to what you said, it's just kind of like, okay, I don't know how it's gonna work out, but it's gonna work out. It has no choice but to. When you get in like that, I call that like my power zone. When I get in that zone and I'm like, you know what, no matter what happens, I know that this is gonna work out for me, so I'm not even worried about it anymore. That kind of feels like the lane that you got in right before. And also what I liked about you giving advice about vision boards, for anybody who has created a vision board, similarly like to what you said, I feel like a holdup for me was like, when you make a vision board, everyone's like, this is supposed to be your dream life, like write down everything that you've ever wanted and like ever done, right? And that's exactly what like my first board was. My first board was like, I want to lose this amount of weight, I want to find a man in 6 months, I want to go abroad and live there for a year, I want this, I want that. And I'm thinking that all of this is going to come to me like right there just because I want it. And it took me time to realize, okay, like law of gestation says that like things take time, right? So like just because, okay, we'll get into it. But I was just like, whoa, okay, it takes time. And for me, what worked similar to like what you did was, okay, instead of me writing 50 things on this vision board, maybe I should write down 2 or 3 that I'm really willing to put all of my energy towards. And it wasn't until I did that stuff started actually manifesting, because it's just common sense. Like if you're putting energy towards somewhere, like you can't split your energy across 40 different things. That's impossible. You know what I mean? In a perfect world, it would be great. But like you said, even more powerful, because you said, you know what? I changed my mind. And I said, I just really want to go to London. So let me just put London on this board and let me just say how much money I need to raise. And this is going to be that. But because all of your energy was focused on it, it's just like, you know what? Of course it worked out. It had no choice but to, because I can tell by the way you delivered that line that you knew you were going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how did that story end?
So, okay, that story was, so you know what? It was one of those experiences where...
But you did get to London, right?
Yes, I did get to London.
Okay.
I got to London. I was like, hell yeah, I'm in London.
I did it.
I'm 21 and I'm living my best life.
Yes.
And the realization, you know what? I didn't plan properly on what I was going to do when I got there. So I focused on getting to London that I didn't even realize, okay, what is the next plan? What is my goal? What do I want to manifest here? And I think for me, a lot of things came up as I was in London. So many triggers, so many anxiety, insecurities. So it was really hard for me to even settle. And truthfully, I didn't give myself enough time to be able to settle in a new city. 6 months, like most people, they say that it takes I want to say like at least 2 years for you to actually settle in a big city like that.
Yep. Which is true.
Yeah, you know, especially on your own.
Yeah.
To make friends. Yeah. So it was definitely a learning lesson, and I definitely can add it to my story. I moved to London when I was 21.
Yes. And then here's another beautiful thing that your story is reminding me of. Like, as we go through life, a lot of the times, like, think about it. The things that you wanted when you were 16 are not the things that you want when you're 21.
Yes.
They're not the things you want when you're 30. Like, life just develops, right? So that's the cool thing about manifestation too. Like, sometimes you can really want something and God and the universe will be like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay. And it could be like, I thought this was a forever thing, but it could be like, you know what? No, we gave you this experience for you to know that this was a risk that you had to take, but it might not be like your forever thing. And that's okay. Because sometimes the lesson and the beauty of that is just to take the risk.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm sure you came back from that experience completely different.
Completely different. You know what? It was a challenge because I actually came back like chronically depressed. So I had to navigate how to deal with that depression. It was really hard for me. And it brought up so much. And, I realized that was when I realized that I was not living up to my potential, that I went to London to run away from my problems. I went to London to run away from whatever I was dealing with in the city. And it was like I was trying to escape myself. I thought, new city, new me. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Your spirit guides were like, okay.
They're probably like,
like that meme of that guy when he's like,
right?
Those were spirit guides when you were getting on the plane to London. You were like, this is my new life. And they were like, okay. Girl, haven't we all been there, honey? My spirit guides have snatched me up and been like, humble yourself. Like,
right? And it was such a humbling experience. God was like, girl, you got things to work on. It was an experience, and I can relish in all of the beautiful things that I learned and be able to be in another city and have that cultural experience, and to get to know a little bit more about myself as well.
Yes. I love that. That's so powerful, because also I want to talk about, one, thank you so much for sharing all that, especially like on IG Live, because it's not always the easiest to share something like so open and vulnerable with people. But like, I think sometimes when people get into like spirituality and manifesting, they think that it's like just this wonderful like ride. You know what I mean? Like, when really it takes like a lot of breaking down first for you to build yourself up, because as you go through life, it's kind of like you'll see mirrors of yourself in certain situations. So like you said, when you went to London, it cracked you open a little bit. You know what I mean? It brought up, it brought up things that you had like no idea. that probably would have even been an issue. But now you're like, okay. And that's a lot of the times what like spirituality and healing is, to be honest. Like before you can even get that big blessing that you're like, I deserve this, I want this. A lot of the times God and the universe, they're telling you, okay, before I can even give you this, I need to make sure that you address what's back here, because I can't build up nothing new on no broken foundation. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Exactly. And I think it was one of those situations where, like you said, just going off of what you said, that it was, God was like, you know, you said you wanted this, but did you really want this? You know, I showed you challenges. I showed you things about yourself.
Yeah.
And now it's time for you to do what you're supposed to do with it. You're supposed to heal.
Yep.
So it was really a humbling experience. And one of the things that hit me that I did not realize, I know this is said tons and this is such a cliche saying.
But it's okay. Say
but
it.
Do not take things for granted. I can't tell you how much I miss Toronto and my family. And I never thought that would be anything that I would be dealing with, but it was so heavy for me. And it made me realize that I have beautiful support back home. I come from a place where it's such a beautiful country, you know. I live in such a amazing place. So
and what a beautiful message that is. But like you said, sometimes it takes leaving home or leaving like a situation that you're used to go back and be like, you know what, the grass isn't always greener. So I love that you brought up that point, because like I was telling you previously to this call, like I'm definitely not from, I live in New York, I live in Brooklyn, but I'm definitely not from here. I'm from North Carolina. And anybody who knows anything about North Carolina, it is the country.
It's
like
small.
It is like small, but it also is like really, I'm from like a small town. You know what I mean? Like I'm not from like Charlotte. I'm from like the outskirts of Raleigh, which is a small town called Garner, which is this big. And in high school, people rolled around with like camouflage trucks and Confederate flags on the back, but we won't even get into it. But that's the vibe that I'm putting down, right? So like I used to be like, God, I hate it here. Like when I would drive home, I would drive past like all these trees and like donkeys and like cows. And I would be like, I'm so tired of this. Like, if I see another donkey, if I got to see another mule out here, if I got to see another cow, if I got to see another bale of hay, I'm going to lose it, right? So that was me. So then when I went to, like, I went to school in Syracuse, and then when I got to the city, I used to live and thrive on, like, all of this noise and all this energy. And I'm like, yeah, New York, yeah, concrete jungle, where dreams are made of. I live for this. And now I'm like, I would give anything on some days to just go and drive down that street with those same cows and those same donkeys and just a peace of mind where nobody's bothering me or I have to listen to anyone yelling or any sirens. We won't get into it because I do love New York, but I can just definitely relate to the energy that you're putting because, on a different note, like you're saying, that comfort zone that you have is wonderful. And then that also kind of tied into, Ashley below left a comment and she said God's timing, not ours. And I love that because it's so true. It's like divine timing is like a thing. It's a real thing.
So often we hear about manifestation. Yes, the law of attraction. Yes, that's wonderful. But what about, like you mentioned before, the law of gestation, that everything literally works in divine timing? You got to trust it. And the reason why a lot of us have trouble manifesting is because we're stopping that manifestation. Because as soon as it doesn't come at a certain time, we say it's not happening. We release all of our doubt, and then you're stopping the vibration of you attracting it.
Exactly. For anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, the law of gestation is basically kind of like a parallel would be like if you planted a seed in soil, it will never grow if you keep digging to see what the seed looked like. Did it sprout? Did it grow? The law of gestation basically just says something takes time to develop. Just like, if you get pregnant yesterday, you're not going to have the baby tomorrow, because it
Exactly.
takes you 9 months to produce and get that baby up until a point where it can actually like live and breathe in the air, right? So that basically is what we're talking about. So just to build on that, that's exactly what manifestations are like too. Like, just because you want something today and you don't see it today, or you might not even see it in a year, but there's so many things that are happening behind the scenes that you don't know. Like, before a seed sprouts through the top, it's still growing. You just can't see it, right? So that's
Yeah.
kind of what manifestation is like for anybody who isn't familiar with that law. But I'm glad that you brought it up, and that the fact when I mentioned it, you were like, yes, because it's so true. I feel like that's the first thing that when you get into mindset and manifestation, that you can grasp onto and say, you know what? Stuff takes time.
Yes. And manifestation, if we were to think about it, it's you're holding on to faith.
Mm,
Like, you're holding on to your faith. And if we were to question how many of us have that much faith to hold on to
mm-hmm.
wait for our manifestation to come within a year, 2 years,
Yep.
we really have that faith to be
Mm-hmm.
able to handle the time that it takes to come to,
Wow.
you know?
Yep.
So really important.
Yes. Yes. I love it. I love it. I'm going to take a pause here and just say, for
Yeah.
anybody who has questions for Zainab or me, definitely feel free to leave them in the questions tab and we can bring them up. I meant to mention that earlier, but we're just like so in it already. Um, but for anyone who has any questions, please send them. I have my own questions, but while we have her here, while we have me here in this vessel of time, whatever is coming up on your heart, definitely share it. Definitely ask us. Like, even if you want us to elaborate on something that we say, use the questions tab so that I can pull it up and everybody can see the question that you're asking. Or feel free to like drop it in like the comments too. But sometimes, because everyone's commenting and joining, it's a little hard for me to read everything. So just
Mm,
drop it. It'll pop up. Yes. So we'll get into it. I'm curious. Are you like a reader? I know some people are
yes,
like, okay, cool.
yes, yes,
So
and
like, what's I saw there's a wonderful page called Brown Folks Book Circle.
okay.
Love them. But they posted, I had no idea it was Paulo, I think he pronounced his last name Coelho. I'm really country, so I don't know. But the guy who wrote The Alchemist.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, I don't know if it's Coelho, I don't know if it's Colo, I don't know, girl. I just kind of like let go of pronouncing stuff right a long time ago. But
Right.
he's the author of The Alchemist, for anyone who's never read it. And they kind of did like a shout out post to him. And I didn't even realize like that it was his birthday. And it made me think like, yo, what are my favorite manifestation books? So I'm curious, like, what's a book that when you read it, you were like, okay, this book is giving me tea right now, like some for real manifestation tea. Because one for me, clearly, because I mentioned it, is The Alchemist. It's a
Mm,
little bit indirect with the, because it's a story for anybody who doesn't
yes.
know. It's not like a how-to self-help book. It's like a fiction book. But
Yeah.
what I love about it is it's jewel on jewel on jewel on jewel on jewel. And the first time you read it, you might pick out 20 jewels over here. But then the next time you read it, it's like 40 other jewels you didn't even see because you were so focused on the other 20. It's
Yes.
just so good. But what book is like that for you that you're just like, that's it?
Okay, so this one, I wouldn't say it's necessarily manifestation, but I think it's really
Say
important.
less. Mm-hmm.
I think it's really imperative as you learn about
Mm-hmm.
manifestation. I think it's one of the first things that you should read.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Love that.
That
I've
book?
never read this book.
No? Okay, so
Tell me about it. Like,
yes, yes, and yes. So he talks about, there's so much to be said. So our subconscious mind is so powerful, y'all. You guys have no ideas. It
mm-hmm.
has literally stored all of our childhood traumas, our habits, our beliefs, and it functions a lot of our bodily processes.
Yes.
And you know, as we get older and as we age, we don't realize that we are creating this habit and we
Mm.
are always on autopilot.
Wow.
And really what breaking the habit of being yourself is, you are literally creating a new habit, a new reality for yourself. But to be able to do that, you have to think greater than how you currently feel. You
Mm.
have to think great. You have to feel greater than how you currently
Mm.
feel.
Wow.
And that takes habit. But how you do that is by he talks about meditation, which I absolutely love, is you are
Yes.
training your subconscious mind to know what it feels like to be able to, let's say,
Mm.
handle being under pressure.
Yep.
um because you're training your subconscious mind a new habit and a new belief. So when you get to that particular
Mm-hmm.
scenario, you will know how to react in a better and more efficient way.
Yes.
Um, and that book is just amazing. And then he talks about quantum physics, which I
Yes.
really want to get into because
It's
it's
like a
fascinating,
whole different, I love
right?
that you brought that up. And Lyric, who actually was on the show a couple weeks ago, brought up another book called Becoming Supernatural, which I actually do have. And I
Oh,
started
God.
reading that. And it's a very similar vibe, right? It's a very
Yes.
like subconscious mind, quantum physics kind of level
Yeah.
book that tells you on like a scientific level
Yes,
why
exactly.
your like why healing your subconscious is like imperative. And it sounds
Yes.
like that book is saying the same thing, which I love. I love more books that can tell me about myself. Like that's the best thing
Exactly.
about manifestation. I feel like every book I read is just reading me to shreds and it's like change your whole self. And I'm like, ah.
Right? And I was obsessed with a lot of self-help books
Mm-hmm.
in like high school,
Same,
but I
same.
found that it was like Tony Robbins and some other authors that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna change my life, but it didn't really work. I just started to
Mm-hmm.
feel bad
Mm-hmm.
about myself
Wow.
because I didn't understand how to get to the root and pluck out all of the stuff
Wow.
that wasn't
Yep.
serving me.
Yep. And
Um,
that's what I love about the modern version of mindset and
yeah,
manifestation stuff. Is because like
yeah.
back in the day, I mean, I feel like there's nobody who probably doesn't know who Tony Robbins is at this point. But for anybody who doesn't know who he is, he's
Yeah.
kind of like not the father of mindset coaching,
He's
but
kind of like the
kind of.
OG, like an
He's like the
OG.
OG of like
Yeah.
coaching and mindset coaching and like
Mhm.
bringing people to seminars and being like, you can be your best self. Woo!
Yeah.
All it takes is my book. Like he's like that. He's like that guy, right? And all it takes
Yeah.
is like you come into my thing and paying $1,000 to come and be with me for a weekend. Like
Yeah.
it's that's the energy of it. But like you said, it's like a lot of people ran into that same habit of like, okay, like I'm here. I
Exactly.
read the book, like now I'm feeling worse about myself. It's like not giving
Exactly.
you the tools to like realize that sometimes you have healing to do in order to get to
Yes.
that point. And it was
Yes.
completely ignoring the healing and was
Yeah.
basically like, okay, like just focus on feeling good and like
Yes.
everything else will just come. And for some people,
Exactly.
that's not the tea.
And just to touch on that point, I feel as though the reason why I got more into intuitive mindset coaching
Mm-hmm.
is because our body and our mind, they are in connection. Like they're connected.
Yes, they are.
And I think
Always.
traditional self-help books is just
Mm-hmm.
talking and just focusing on the mind.
Yep.
But our subconscious is our body.
Yep.
So like our body is acting out. Our body is already
Yep.
thinking and it's already acting out before our mind can catch up. And that's what you talked
Exactly.
about in breaking the habit of being yourself. Because
Mm-hmm.
your body is acting out what your subconscious believes. So you're struggling to create this new reality because
Mm.
you haven't really gotten to understand, your subconscious and what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so powerful because
Mhm.
I mean, like, I already feel like I would definitely love the book because I feel like I already know that to be true.
Mm.
Like, and for anybody who's really like spiritual, the more that you get into like spirituality and knowing yourself, you'll realize that sometimes when things are wrong energetically, it'll manifest in your body. Like, it's the
Thank you.
weirdest thing. Like, throughout my life, anytime I've been in a situation where I'm like, I don't really like it here, or like this job doesn't feel like it's for me, I would get like these phantom symptoms. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced this, definitely let me know. Drop it in the comments. It's like if I'm around a certain person that I'm not vibing with, my stomach will ache out all of a sudden. Like if I'm at a job where my boss is like trash, like, and I don't like the vibe that I'm getting at the job, like I get headaches all of a sudden. It's just when my energy is off, it will manifest in my body. And like you were saying in the book, it's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, right?
Yes.
So in that book, it sounds like they're already talking about those things.
Yes,
And how
exactly.
you need to pay attention to that stuff, and you need to heal what's going on subconsciously so that it can manifest differently in your body and in your physical space.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Anything that's going on internally,
Yep.
I truly believe it will always manifest externally.
Yep.
There's no
Always.
doubt. And that energy is so important, and connecting with our mind is a huge thing.
Yep.
And understanding what our body is telling us. You know, I realized that we can all talk about our physical health all the time.
Yeah.
We can talk about that in society, and we can always bring it up, and there's so much hype. But what about like our mental health, and in regards to how we connect to ourselves?
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And then that's like the dialogue that's like missing from everything, especially as people of color. Like, I don't know what it is about them sweeping stuff underneath the rug when, like, as people of color, we need a healing, like a really deep healing. But society just kind of like sweeps it under the rug. I'm like, calls us crazy. We don't have to get into it, but I'm just kind of like,
that is something that is really big that I've noticed, because when Black Lives Matter started, I don't want to say it started to become a trend, but at one point it was like everyone was hashtagging it. It was
that Blackout Tuesday sent me out. I already told you where I was from. I'm like, oh, y'all care about
right? I know.
Y'all the same people with the Confederate flag in the back of y'all truck? Or am I mistaken? Oh, okay.
Okay. Right? And I didn't realize that when that happened, I was muted. I couldn't access words to be able to express how I was feeling. And I was working with this spiritual advisor at the time, and she said, you are carrying your energy from your ancestors, your mother's energy, and then your energy, and the world's energy.
Yep.
And I'm just like,
and how much, it's so much to carry.
There's so much to carry. And like a lot of us have racial trauma. Like we've been, like in our household, we've been told, don't act this way. You're a Black woman. Do not do this. Do not do this because of your color. Remember, you're Black. You can't do this, you know? And I know our parents didn't do that intentionally to make us feel bad about ourselves, but it was a way to sort of show us the reality that we will be treated differently based on skin color. However, that has left some effects, you know, some effects on us.
For sure. And I love that you brought up that point, because it's so true. So it's like when you are already dealing with like what it means to like be Black in the world, you know what I mean? Like you're dealing with that already. And then it's like, okay, I definitely want to heal and like have my best life. But like, how do you do that when you're trying to like heal generational curses and like childhood trauma and like all these things? So that's another reason why I wanted to create Soul Sister Network and like have these weekly conversations, because I want women of color to see themselves and to be like, okay, like it's not impossible for me to heal through my trauma, because like, you know, she did it. Like, you know, and it's not weird for me to be going through things and have depression, because she just said that she went through the same thing, you know what I mean? And she looks like me, and she's also young, and she's not, you know, like it, like I just want people to see themselves in this platform and to be able to say, you know what, I'm not going through it by myself. But at the same time, I want the vibes to be high, right? Like as we're here, we're talking about like how we need to heal it, how we need to fix it, what we need to do to get there, but also like what books to read, like what are realistic things that I can do that push me in that direction. Like I don't want someone to just tell me to feel good all the time, because that's not realistic. You know what I mean?
I
Like
hate that shit.
I hate it.
that.
I hate it. It's so annoying to me. And I'm totally into manifesting clearly, but I'm also like that's what messed me up in the beginning. I don't know anybody else who's been like manifesting for a while out there, but I got completely lost, and I thought that like, oh, if I'm not feeling good all the time, it must be me. Like something must be wrong with me. It's my energy. God, like everybody else can do this, but like I can't. And then the T is like, when you're watching all these people and reading all these books, a lot of the times, like they're white people, which is fine. But it's just kind of like they walk through life differently than me. So of course, their experience is going to be very different than my experience. So I'm basing my trauma and what I need to heal through somebody who doesn't walk through the world the way that I walk through it. They might have their own individual struggles, right? But I have to recognize that my race and being Black and being a woman is a big part of my struggle, right? So it just took me time to realize what was realistic for me. So yeah, not to get off on a tangent because we're already there, but it's just kind of like, whoa, like,
that is so great. I love everything that you mentioned.
Yes. Hold on. We have a question. Let me see if I can see it. I feel like it's a little bit longer, so let's hope that we can get it. It says, how do you deal with the healed, you not relating to most people you were in a relationship with? Most specifically, how do you handle relationships you built with, oh no. Okay, so it cut off, I guess, because it's longer. I don't know if you could see all of it on your end.
No, I can only see where it cut off on how do you.
Okay, let me see. How do you deal with when you're not relating to the most people you're in a relationship with? I'm gonna answer this like, Raven, see if you can send a follow-up, making it a little bit shorter, and we'll answer it that way. But I'm gonna answer it the way that I think that she's asking it. Like, how do you deal with your healing if you're not necessarily relating to people that you're in relationships with? I don't know if she means like
I think so.
Friendships or like boyfriend, girlfriend relationships, or family even. I'll say, you know what, I'll let you take this question first because I'm curious. When you started going through your healing, was it hard for you to relate to people that you used to have really strong relationships with?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
You know, one thing that I absolutely love about, that I respect a lot about healing. Oh, she said, basically, how do you handle relationship as you're healing and start to not relate? Okay. So
thank you for that.
Thank you. You know, relationships are our biggest triggers and mirrors. Will show us everything that we need to work on.
Yes,
it will reflect back to us everything that we need to look inside of ourselves and to do the inner work. In terms of how do I handle them as I'm going through my healing journey, the first thing is prayer. You know, I was listening to Lauryn Hill, one of her really amazing like interview. She was speaking at
so good with interviews.
So beautiful, so gorgeous.
Yes.
Talking about trying to understand people more than you need them to understand you. So sometimes you're going to have people who are going to react as you're going through your healing journey. And the important thing is to pray for them and pray that the people who need to be there in your life will be there. And the people who are not meant to be there will not be there. And you just have to come to the terms that this is for you, and this will be a betterment for your life. And you cannot focus on the fact that there's going to be people out there who are not going to want to deal with you. And you know what that shows you? They aren't meant to be in your life. That is God's way of showing you they are not meant to be in your life.
And even wait, no, go ahead.
Oh, okay. But you want to be able to understand them. You want to know that they have their own ish going on, and that it's okay. I have God. I'm good. I have my spirituality. I am protected. My higher self knows what I'm doing.
Wow.
I'm good. And the people that are meant for you will be there.
Always. I love that. To piggyback on what you said too, first off, thank you for that answer, because that's so spot on. That's basically exactly what I would say. The only thing that I would add for me when I was going through my healing is like, I don't know if it happened for you, but my healing hit me like a bus. And it was like all of a sudden I felt like I couldn't relate to anybody. Like I couldn't relate to like family. I couldn't relate to friends. I was like, who am I becoming? Like, what is happening? No, I can't talk to anyone. I can't even like muster up a conversation with like best friends anymore. I'm just like, what is going on? But that's because, like you were saying, like everyone's a mirror, right? And once you start understanding that, like some people are put in your life to be a little triggering, right? To show you what you need to heal. Like, you know, so I would say challenge yourself. Like look at that person and say, you know, what is it that about them that bothers me so much? Like, why is this bothering me so much? Like, and what about this situation do I see in myself? Why is this triggering me? Is it envy? Is it jealousy? Is it resentment? Like what is it? What is it that's triggering me so much? What of myself do I see in this one person, right? That is what hit me the most, because at first I had a lot of people that I felt like that about all at once. And then it took me some time and I realized, well, why does it bother you so much? Can you like, is it? And then the more I focused on myself, I was like, honestly, it's because I'm getting triggered by something that they're doing. It's because, you know, without me realizing it, I'm a little jealous of one little tiny thing, right? Or I'm a little resentful towards one tiny thing that they might have done forever ago, right? So I would say hold yourself accountable in that sense and just see if the situation is about you. Because a lot of the times you can think it's about somebody else, but the more you sit with it, the more you realize, honestly, it's really about you. You know what I mean?
It's really about you. I think that is the number one thing that is hard to swallow.
Yeah,
and
it is. It is, because
really
like you never want to think it's you. You always want to think it's somebody else. And that doesn't mean, I want to be very clear, I'll put my pen down for this. That doesn't mean that the other person doesn't have stuff that they're healing through as well, right? So you taking responsibility does not mean like, oh, everything in this particular situation is my fault. That just means that you're looking at the situation, you're going, you know what? I've played a part in this, or what I'm feeling actually is because of me and not because of them. But they might be feeling something that is the same, right? So like also give yourself grace. Like just because you realize you got a problem with somebody don't mean that you got to fix it overnight. Sometimes, you know, what I noticed for me is like when I first started my spiritual healing, like I hung out with a bunch of people, and when I was going through it, I was like, you know, I can't really hang out with these people anymore because I feel like they're a trigger to me. Like something about them all of a sudden is just triggering everything in me all of a sudden. Like I can't tolerate it. But it's like after I went through certain things and I looked at myself and I go, okay, well, yeah, they were triggering me, but I probably could have handled it better and did A, B, and C, or did something different. Like, you know, how can I handle this better now? What can I do differently now? So that doesn't mean that the relationship has to disintegrate. It can just change a little bit. So maybe, you know, if it's a parent, maybe, you know, whatever you're going through, maybe you don't talk to your parent every day like you were before. Maybe just once a week. Maybe it's a couple days. Like if it's a best friend and y'all were inseparable before, maybe it's like, all right, I'll talk to you every couple weeks. You know what I mean? Because like just building up boundaries. I guess that's the short way to say it. Yeah.
And I think you can love people at a distance. You can love people at a distance.
Love it.
And what just said was sometimes we outgrow people too if they're not growing with us.
That is so true. So also keep that in mind. It is okay. Like you said before, it's okay if you gotta walk away from some people. Because when one of my favorite, you know how back in the day on MySpace, you could have like those really like glitter quotes that you would put on your page and shit. Like, so I had one that was like, I know, girl, it was so embarrassing. So one quote that I always had on my page was like, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and it's up to you to decide which one is which, right? And I was like, oh girl, that is so deep. But now that I'm older, I'm like, low key it is, because it's so true. Like I just like sometimes, and that's what I think about it all the time. I'm like, okay, is this a lifetime friend? Is this like a seasoned friend? Or is this like just someone who's a lesson? You know what I mean? Like, is this is this deep, or is this like not that deep at all. So it's
Yeah.
like when you go through certain things, like it's like, okay, maybe you're getting triggered by your mom, right?
Hmm. Okay,
It's my
let's
mama.
talk
You know what I
about,
mean? Like,
yes. I actually want to like mention that
let's get into it.
the most relationship that we would have that we need to work on besides ourselves is with our parents.
That's why I keep bringing up mom and dads and,
Listen,
guardians, because
listen.
that people think that, like, especially like, you know, kids of color, it's kind of like, I feel like all of us were kind of raised the same. Like, you don't really
Yes,
disobey your mama, like, don't raise
girl.
your voice at me, all this aggression. And I'm like, what I do? So it's, but you can't get rid of your parents. You know what I mean? You don't want to
Exactly.
either, but it's just kind of like, that's the healing that I feel like most people run from, because
Yes. It's
that's
so
a real,
uncomfortable.
it's an inevitable relationship. That's just going to be here forever, you know?
Yes. Yes. And I think that healing is going to be your most powerful healing,
Yes, it will be.
because you're so connected. Like you're literally
Mm-hmm.
connected. You get, especially to your mom. You were
Yes.
in her womb
Yeah.
for 9 months,
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
deep. It's deep.
And a lot of the things that you are noticing about yourself, for sure, it was passed on by your mom.
Exactly.
And that takes a lot of strength and a lot of healing.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah, it
that is
does.
the most, especially as Black families, I think that is one of the most important relationships
Mm-hmm.
that we can rekindle.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. Definitely. It's powerful too. So I would say to anybody out there who's like trying to like heal and better their relationship with their parents, I would say like first start out by doing some internal work and figuring out like what about it is triggering, and then just release yourself from certain expectations, because
Yes.
also keep in mind your parents are from a completely different generation. So like the way we talk about things now, a lot of parents from the past like didn't even believe in therapy, and like now we're like basically therapying each other on Instagram Live. It's just like a completely different time. So like
Yeah.
give them grace, and the more that you look at like what's triggering you, like look at I got really great advice from my spiritual coach before, and it was basically saying, like, look at your parents like little children who are also going through healing. And
Yes.
that humbled me a lot, because it made me think,
That's powerful.
wow, like, what was my parents' childhood like? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, my relationship with my dad it's definitely not bad, but it's like not the best. You know what I mean? And my
Yeah.
relationship with my mom and like high school wasn't the best. So then it's just kind of like, but like think about them, think about what they went through, like think about their story. And I like that. And all said, also realizing that parents are human first, who have their own baggage too. Exactly. That's such an
Yes.
eloquent way to say what I was trying to say, because I could be wordy sometimes, but that's exactly what it is. Parents are human first, and then they're your parents second. So think about all their baggage, think about who their parents are, like think about the things that they had to heal from, and give them a little bit of grace, right? And then
Yes.
once you do that and start looking at them with kinder eyes, sometimes they can pick up on that, and then the
Yes.
relationship can strengthen from there, because that's what happened with me and my mom. I felt like we were just always at odds with each other when I was in high school, and it took me going off somewhere else and me growing up a
Same.
little bit and looking at her life and saying, well, clearly my mom's not perfect, but like, dang, she really did her thing with me. Like, wow, I appreciate her. I appreciate her doing all these things. And when you start vibrating different, they start vibrating different. Like, that doesn't mean that this is going to be everyone's tale, but like, my mom has straight out come and like told me, like, I'm sorry for any trauma I might have given you. I was a young mom. My mom had me when she was 18. So she was like, I was a young mom. I didn't know. I was learning things as I was getting older. Like, if I
Yeah.
could go back, those kind of things. So you never know how the relationship will better over time too. So just give it that space too. You have anything else that you want to say about that?
Yes, because Ray of Sunshine said it's harder to heal when you can't distance yourself. It's hard to
Mm,
put that distance when it's your mom, and it's hard to navigating the space.
mm,
So boundaries is something that you have to be able to work on and adopt as
yeah.
you are not especially as you're going through your healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, realizing that we're adults now and it's really our responsibility to break that generational curse or that
Yep.
trauma. So you have to be able to express to your parents or your mom that we need to set boundaries.
Yeah.
And this boundary is for it's for our relationship, the betterment
Yeah.
of our relationship. But if you don't express that, you can't expect them to act a certain way. And even
Yep.
when you do express that, if they don't respect your boundary, that's on them.
Yeah, it is.
You've gone ahead and expressed it. So you
Mm-hmm.
can only take care of you at this point. And I
Exactly.
know they are our parents, but at the
Yep.
end of the day, you still have to look out for you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I love that. It's so important. So if I want anyone to take anything away from this conversation, it's that boundaries are important no matter who they are with. And sometimes parents are the hardest people to like set a boundary with because it's like they're your parents. So sometimes they can take it really personal and be like, a boundary, I had you. You know what I mean? Like, but just because you have me
Especially,
doesn't
yeah.
mean that like you gotta be all, you know, on me and in my business and like, you know, it's just sometimes boundaries, like you said, are necessary. It's like
Yes.
it makes it just makes it a better relationship. So I love that we got into this because this is something that I've never talked about before, but it's so imperative and
Yeah.
a lot. I'm so glad we got into, you know, parents especially because I feel like that's something that everyone to a certain extent
Yeah.
struggles with, but nobody really talks about, especially people in like the of color communities. Um, just because of everything that we have to deal with on a personal level, of course, that manifests in different ways when it comes to parenting during that trauma and getting raised in that trauma. So this was such a good and important conversation for us to have, and I'm
Yes.
so glad we have it.
Yes.
Let me see. Wow, we have so many questions that are coming in now.
Yes.
Um, okay, let's do this one. It says, if they don't respect your boundaries, what did you suggest? And all honestly, this is our first time. I want to say this is our last question because we only have 5 minutes left, and I'm like, what? This has been so good. I'm so
Right?
upset.
This is so good.
I know.
Okay.
I'm like, I'll let you get into it.
Okay.
What will you say?
If they don't respect your boundaries, what you used okay. So this would be something where you have to take responsibility now.
Mm-hmm.
If someone doesn't respect your boundaries, there's really nothing you can do. If they don't respect it, that is on them. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something where, okay, if you respect your boundaries and you respect yourself, then you will do the necessary things to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you are not being affected by this person
Yep.
not respecting your boundaries. And
Yep.
that could look like avoiding this person. That
Mm-hmm.
could look like loving them from a distance.
Yeah.
That could look like really just taking care of you. Because at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, let's normalize putting you first. You matter always because you're the one that's
Always.
living your life. No one else, not
Mm-hmm.
our parents, not the people we love. It also doesn't mean exactly. And
Exactly.
sometimes
Yep.
people like if someone doesn't have their own boundaries or hasn't communicated what boundaries looks like for them, then they're going to what's the word that I'm looking for? Oh my God, it's at the tip of my tongue. They are going to project that onto you.
Oh,
They're
for
going to
sure.
project
For
their
sure.
own insecurities, their own triggers
Exactly.
in regards to
Exactly.
boundaries. And that's something
Exactly.
that you just got to understand that, okay, I understand that this person is reacting. They're
Mm-hmm.
not responding.
Exactly.
And that this is something that they're doing on autopilot.
Yeah, because
And
a
it's
lot
not
of the times, them reacting, it has absolutely nothing to do with you,
nothing.
you know, and everything to do with them. And I want to
Exactly.
piggyback on what you said and give people a tip of advice that liberated me a lot. And my mom actually gave me this advice. She tells me this all the time. She says, you can't change people. You can only change the way you allow them to affect you. And
Yes.
it is one of my favorite quotes ever. She used to always say that, and I'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm venting. because my mom speaks in like colloquials, and I'm like, well, you just, I don't know if it's like the Southern in her, but I'm like, honestly, just call a spade, and she'll be like, you can't sit on two horses with one ass, and I'm like, what? Girl, just say what you mean and mean what you say, but but it's so true. Like, you can't change people, like, no matter who the person is. So when you release that also goes into manifesting as like a last point. Like, you can't predict a ending. You can't predict a result. You can only change the way you allow it to affect you. Like, I can want my relationship with a parent to be better, but if it doesn't get better, then what? You know what I mean? Like, what will that do to me? Can I release it and say, you know what, that's okay? Because if it doesn't look the way that I think it's going to look, that's okay. You know, because now I feel better about the situation, because I know I'm moving with like my best intent always in mind. And that liberated me a lot, for sure.
Sometimes you just got to surrender and just know that there's bigger things at play. And sometimes you just gotta surrender.
Yes, you do.
You're only in control of so much.
Yes, that's so true. Also, to end it off, someone said Haitians be doing the most with their proverbs. Girl, like, I'm not Haitian, but like, I could, it literally, it's like anybody who comes from anybody like black or African or African American. I'm just like it's just Southern people, it just manifested in a completely different way. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm asking you for advice. Why are you like saying like what? But it already is like almost time. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been incredible. The last thing I want to say, a couple people asked questions about other books that they should read and everything. I'm actually on Soul Sister Network, we're putting out a wonderful manifestation book list. So I'm definitely going to put Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself on it. So stay tuned for that. But how can people keep in touch with you after this ends in a couple of minutes? Like, how can they stay in touch?
Awesome. So you guys can hop into my DMs. I definitely want to chat with you all. All of you so interactive and so beautiful with your beautiful questions. Please hop into my DMs, because I want to be able to chat with you and I want to be able to get to know you. And this has been so lovely. I want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for letting me be able to come on here and just have a beautiful conversation with you and also with your followers.
I love it. This has been the absolute best and open. And I knew we were going to get deep. I knew it. I was like, everything is different. Every session is different with people, but I just knew this was going to be like good. And we touched on some really deep stuff. So thank you for coming on, being so open, for like waiting for the universe to align for this to happen, because again, law of gestation, it took time. So the people who were here for this message were the exact people who needed to hear it. For anybody who's coming from your side, if you'd love to follow Soul Sister Network, we would love to have you. The entire platform is about manifesting, feeling good, healing together, like cheering on other badass women who look like you. It's like the most incredible thing ever. And I'm so excited that I've been able to meet other wonderful people like Zainab, but it's just been incredible. This has been such a great live. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys for joining us. And we will see you again next week. It won't be Monday though, because Brandy and Monica are doing verses on Monday. So I intentionally am changing the schedule so I can see their verses, because I need to be there. So for anybody who's not planning on being there, change your schedule. Because I'm here for all of this tea. I'm so ready for them to sing The Boy Is Mine together so I can be like, because you know they got beef too. Not to like not to get into it, but anybody who knows, like, they got beef. So I'm like, the fact that they got beef together, girl, they have beef. Google it. I'm like, okay, like, it was all about Whitney Houston. It's just a lot with them. So yes, so that'll be next Monday. So we'll be back on Tuesday or Wednesday, because we're there for all of that African American history. But yes, this has been great. You guys are awesome. This will be on yes, this will be on Soul Sister Network's IGTV. But thank you so much for joining us. please connect with her, follow her. She's great. She's incredible. Again, she's a mindset coach. So anybody who wants to reach out on that level too, please feel free. And just let's support other beautiful women who look like us, y'all. So I love you guys. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon, girl. And everybody have a good night. Bye, y'all.